Right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Niagara this morning with me, Peter Giblett, and him, Dave Wheeler. Morning, Dave. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Right. So what's going on?
Well, I just watched sort of fact checked what Donald Trump said about the Bureau of Labor Statistics being fixed, made him look bad, and he claimed that the Bureau of Labor Statistics made Biden look good before the election, and that's exactly wrong. Apparently, it was exactly the opposite. On November 1st, 5 days before the election, the Bureau of Statistics gave a dismal job performance to the Biden government, revised its data to make it look as if Biden government had created very few jobs. Very similar report to what just came out, almost the same numbers. So when Biden says that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, when Trump said the Bureau of Labor Statistics tried to make him look bad before the election, it actually made him look good just a few days before the election. As a matter of fact, Fox News jumped all over it.
I seem to remember that. I seem to remember that. It's one of these kind of things that kind of triggers in the memory, somehow. It was one of these statistics that I seem to recall seeing, probably didn't comment about, but probably thought to myself, I wonder if that makes all the difference in the election.
Well, according to Fox News, it was the sort of the nail in the coffin for Biden. It was the last big boost for Trump on his side. And as a matter of fact,
Harris, not Biden. You mean Harris, not Biden?
Yeah, Harris. Pardon me. So, anyway, the Biden tried to make the Biden administration look good, but actually it made it look bad. So he was completely wrong about that. Like exactly the opposite of what he said. That the BLS had fudged the stats to make the Biden Harris government look good, but actually it was absolutely opposite.
Yeah, I had this sneaking memory. It wasn't something I know it wasn't something we discussed, but it was something I remember seeing the statistics at the time, and I'm thinking, is this one of those things that makes it right for Trump?
Yeah, and Fox News took advantage of it.
Yeah.
Fox News took advantage of it and made it as if like this is another great piece of information for Trump. So he lied. He either didn't check or just lied like he normally does. And so what he said was completely opposite. And because this job report looked bad for him, he fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who put a report in that was favorable for him in his election and on November 1st and back in October as well. So now he's talking about, so now we have a situation where he's going to put somebody he likes in that office. So they're of course going to fudge the stats. And apparently other bureaus are very worried about giving him a bad report. So they're either delaying the report or fudging it because nobody wants to lose their job. And I guess the agricultural data was delayed because the tariffs made the agricultural sector look like it was declining, but they were afraid to even publish it because they were afraid of Trump's that somebody might get fired. And now all the institutes are worried about a bad report because nobody wants to get fired.
Yeah. And you can't. Well, I suppose if you've got a bad report, you've got you've got two choices: publish it and be fired, or don't say a word and skip it until it's
Well, I
finished.
guess some of the reports were highly redacted and
Yeah.
things of that kind to make them even the ones that were truthful, the truth is reduced in them, and things that are normally included aren't because they don't want to get Trump angry, which is a bad sign because U.S. statistics have been trusted all over the world, and if you start fudging them, that reduces the trust that people have in American investing in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of these sort of things that whatever you might say about the US government under one shade or other of, being run, usually the administration is fair, and particularly, US Statistics Bureau.
It's interesting that when J.D. Vance got the report, he had said nothing about it being fudged. He just pointed out some of the good things about the report, saying that native-born Americans got more jobs. He cited that as a positive, but then when Trump said that we're all fixed, then suddenly J.D. Vance changed his opinion too.
Yeah.
Remember, and when asked, well, why did you elect or vote for this particular person? A vote in the Senate 86-6, which is insanely huge in that environment. So bipartisan support all the way across the board, where J.D. Vance and Rubio both voted for her. He says, "Oh well, I didn't really pay much attention to it. I just wanted the process to be moved along." So he won't even be honest about that. So we're in a situation where everybody knows they can't be honest if the truth is negative. You can only say good things,
All right.
Like the Titanic sank and it's going to be a great place for fish to live, nothing to do with the 1,500 people that died. No.
Yeah.
No, that ship sank and it's going to be a good place for fish to live.
Let's get on with the show anyway, okay? So,
okie dokie.
Right. So Burlington is penalizing residents for natural gardens. And natural gardens are basically those where you allow, and they're not growing weeds, you're growing things like milkwood, that is one of these plants that
milkweed, yeah.
Milkweed is actually an important plant for the larvae of the monarch butterfly. Right, and it's not a weed at all, but it is a naturally growing plant. And there's a number of naturally growing plants that one can grow in gardens, but Burlington particularly is actually being very aggressive about finding people who have unkempt, as they see it, unkempt gardens. They've got a clean, a tidy gardens bylaw, which is giving them all sorts of powers, which they can fine people up to $10,000 a day if they don't conform with the bylaw.
Well, the fines here $400,000 for non-compliance based on a flat rate of $100,000 plus $10,000 per day until she conforms to the bylaw.
Yeah.
So they're coming down on her. It's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But they all are also almost in violation of their own statutes and their own drive. They themselves have milkweed plants in public areas of the city, and we're giving out milkweed seeds to residents or encouraging milkweed to be planted. These are not noxious weeds. They're just a natural thing. And Barnes, in this particular case, has planted a bunch of plants that are kind of perennial, self-seeding plants, milkweed among them. It's just a sort of a natural environment for, I don't know, even salamanders and things like that, and moles, and a good and the milkweeds, of course, are to encourage monarch butterflies, because their monarch butterflies are going to be upon the endangered list soon, because less and less areas, like milkweed used to be pretty common in Ontario, and so there's a lot less places for them to lay their eggs and have their larvae.
Well, for example, there's been some arguments. Well, so just to be so clear, a natural garden is supposed to be one that grows natural growing North American plants that can be, can be beneficial to local insects, local, well, primarily insects. But they're also good looking as well. They can also be good looking.
Well, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It says here the entire situation is completely unbelievable, because 29 years ago, Toronto resident Sandy Bell won a landmark case in Ontario. The 1996 ruling established that naturalized gardens expressed environmental beliefs are protected under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms of expression, as long as they don't pose public safety risks. In another person who had their gardens chopped down had only one noxious weed in it, and it turned out to be coming from the neighbor's yard. So when the person asked, "Are you going to go after the neighbor for having the noxious weed?" they said no, because we haven't had a complaint against them. So these are complaint driven.
Yeah, and that's what
they don't go after them until somebody complains about them.
And that's what's wrong about these, complaints. It's like, well, why are people complaining? Because natural gardens look nice.
Yeah, here it is. It's important to discuss the hypocrisy of the city of Burlington and its naturalized garden bylaws over the past several years, starting in summer 2018, when Barnes, Paul Ruan, and myself received notices to remove native plants, and in Paul's case, native trees as well. Otherwise, the city would cut our gardens bill. In 2018, the city of Burlington served me with a notice to cut down my common milkweed that was thriving in my naturalized garden. Refusing to comply meant the city would cut down the entire naturalized garden while billing me for the cost of that work. At that time, the city had been giving away common milkweed seeds and plants to folks to plant in their home gardens. The city even had common milkweed growing on city property throughout Burlington. Local plant nurseries were selling milkweed plants, and the David Suzuki Foundation was encouraging folks to plant the common milkweed. 6 days later, after the influx of emails from the folks across Canada pointing out the common milkweed being removed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. And it just goes on. So he says here, Barnes and Ron were threatened last year. In Ron's case, the only noxious weed on his property was a dog strangling vine related to the milkweed, but deadly to monarch larvae. But the vine was actually rooted in the neighbor's yard. When Paul asked bylaw if they were going to speak to the neighbor about pulling out the vine that is listed on Ontario's Weed Control Act, bylaw said no, because no one would file a complaint about that garden. So there you had a noxious weed, one that really did violate the bylaw, but they weren't going to do anything about it because nobody complained about it. Yeah, but they would knock down his milkweed.
Yeah, and here's another dumb thing. Okay, so you can't see it on the screen. Okay, plants cannot be more than 20 centimeters in height.
Well, that's pretty hard to regulate.
Yeah, it's a dumb bylaw.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, you can get non-native flowering plants at commercial nurseries like hostas and callia lilies and zinnias and ox-eye daisies that easily surpass these height restrictions.
Yes, and there's conflicts with their own bylaws.
Yeah,
and they're handing out milkweed seeds, and then they say you can't have milkweed.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see what happens here. They're coming down pretty hard on her. These huge fines. You think they would find something better to do, wouldn't you?
Well, it's not just Burlington. Let's be honest, it's not just Burlington. I've got a case. I've got a case here locally in the Niagara region that was also the same thing, because it's fallen foul of the clean yards bylaw, and yet he's got a naturalized garden.
Was it purposely naturalized, or did you just let it go wild?
No, he's purposely naturalized it. In fact, the photographs he shows of it show that he's mowed the lawn up to the area where the naturalized garden starts. So there's grass that's perfectly mowed, and then there's these clumps of plants that at the time he took the photograph had not yet flowered.
It states here that they're worried about skunks and raccoons and possums, but it also states that those animals may go through your yard, just like they do here in my backyard. Yeah. But they don't stay there. They don't live there. They actually live in the sheds and underneath sheds and garages and other outbuildings in other parts of the neighborhood. So they may forage for a time as they do everywhere at night, but they actually don't live there because
and again, we get those.
It doesn't encourage them to live there. Let's put it that way.
We get those in our garden as well, but they're usually passing through. All of those coming through the garden. I saw one sitting on a sort of possum sitting on the middle of the lawn one day.
Yeah, I get a possum almost every night back here.
Yeah.
What they do is there's sheds all along the back fence here on the other side of the fence. That's where I think some of these critters were actually living. I know for sure that some of them must have been, because I see the same skunk come out of the same hole in the fence or underneath the fence. Yeah. And there was a shed behind it. And I knew that he lived under there, or she, because that's what that's where they would come and go to. And
we've got, under our the fences on our garden, we've got there's about 3 holes where animals can get under. It used to be where our cats used to go under. Yeah. So all of these gardens are just like that, and as you were saying, you've got exactly the same, right? So I think that they should get off their high horses, and all of these cities need to get off their high horses and stop it with these clean yards bylaws, and get to grips with natural gardens. They need to review the whole system.
Yeah, it's they're going to get a lot of noise because in this article it mayors and councilors' email addresses, so you might get a fair amount of backlash there. Now we haven't heard from the complainant's point of view, though. Of course, you don't put their name out there, but somebody's complained about this, and so they I think the garden's been there for 7 years or something like that, or at least they've been trying to prosecute it for 7 years. And it really come down $400,000. Sounds like that's ridiculous,
That is absolutely
$100,000 fine and $10,000 a day. Yeah, that you have to.
This is called a money grab, right?
It's also a deterrent for anybody who wants to naturalize the garden, because who's going to do it if they think they're going to get a massive fine like that?
Yeah, absolutely, right. And it's also meant to bankrupt those because those homeowners will end up having to sell, I would think, with that kind of fine. unless they're wealthy.
Yeah, so I imagine it will probably make its way through the courts. If the precedent set 29 years ago has anything to do with it, they're on good ground, because Ontario law supersedes municipal law, and federal law supersedes provincial law. So if it has to do with the constitutional rights, we'll see. Mike says, so fines for weeds and natural plants, but build over contaminated sites. Yeah, yes, yeah. The contradictions and hypocrisies are manifest here.
Yeah, and these animals have nowhere else to live because of the overcrowding and taking away the wetlands and trees, etc. That's for sure. And you know, the trees that we do take away are not a good thing.
Well, right? there are some animals like coyote, foxes, skunks, raccoons, possums are opportunistic animals. Human habitation is a food source for them. Nice trim lawns are excellent for Canadian geese, right? So they actually encourage them to come out of the wild because of the easy food sources. So that's another aspect. Skunks and possums and raccoons can find all kinds of really good garbage to eat.
Oh yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
And often foodstuffs that we've left outside either by accident or we're, put in the bin or something like that.
Yeah. Now, and the skunks around here, they dig for grubs, and skunks will also eat mice.
Yeah.
Possums, they'll eat ticks and all that other kind of thing. So these are opportunistic animals. I haven't seen a coyote in a few years, but I used to see a lot of them right here in town. I go for a walk and I'd see a coyote.
I hear coyotes going down the back of my area on the railway tracks.
Yeah, that'd be a nice place for them to hang out.
So they go through the railway tracks. In fact, they've been seen heading across the bridge every once in a while.
Well, yeah, you'll see deers too if you're a little bit farther outside the town. Well, we had a deer. I lived on Ontario Avenue, between Otter and Ryerson, or east. What am I talking about here? Eastwood, right? And a deer came out of the gorge and ran across the park.
Yeah.
So railway lines are a good transit point for animals.
Yeah.
They use it because it's an easy way of getting from one place to another.
Yep. Well, that's where I hear, I've been out the back of my garden and I've heard coyotes on the railway lines.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're out there. So they're an opportunistic animal.
Yeah.
And so are foxes. How many foxes have we seen around here?
Yeah.
I've seen lots of foxes.
I haven't recently seen a fox, that's for sure. It's been a couple of years since I've seen a fox anywhere in the region. But anyway, yeah, point taken.
Well, I've seen it. I saw a few back in the winter and spring.
Okay, fair. All right. Okay, so moving on, Canadian forces are airdropping humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Well, this is a good thing to do, of course. It's never going to make up for loaded trucks coming across the border, which is a real problem. But it's doing nothing is worse, it says in this article. But I have a problem with the stuff they're dropping. They're dropping flour and they're dropping pasta and things like that. The real problem, though, and the biggest complaint for even the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, they're giving away materials that need to be cooked with water and gas, basically cooking gas. And the people don't have adequate water and cooking gas.
Well,
they'll get pasta, or they'll get lentils, or they'll get flour, and they really can't do much with it because they don't have enough water.
Yeah.
And if they do have the water, they don't have the means to cook it.
Well, this was one of the problems about when there was the bakeries that were under attack, because bakeries and restaurants were one of the areas where they were managing to at least get fed at one point.
Yeah, and they were knocking out bakeries and refusing cooking gas.
Yeah.
Remember when Gallant started the war shortly after that horrendous event on October 7th, Hamas, their terrifying event, that they cut off all water and food. That was the first thing they did.
Yeah.
So they and later on in May, they cut off food going into the Gaza Strip to force Hamas to surrender. It was, well, you're going to starve Hamas, but guess what? You're going to starve everyone else, which is 2 million people in the area. And right now, that starvation campaign is radicalizing every kid that ever walked.
Yeah.
When they think of that Gaza Humanitarian Fund as being a terrible thing. Witkoff went there and he says it's Hamas's fault, and he's just a shill for Netanyahu. So nothing's going to be done. The Americans can't bring themselves to do anything about it.
Again, when it comes to things like humanitarian aid drops, it's very difficult for those authorities, people like Canadian Armed Forces, to consider doing anything but dropping produce like flour and dried produce like flour and things like that, because they can't make ready-made stuff, because it's because by the time they get it there, it will have deteriorated.
Well, that's why they're sending the dry goods like flour and pasta and things like that. However, they're hard to cook because you need cooking fuel and water, and those are in short supply.
Yeah.
But also, it's better than nothing. But what happens every time one of these things drop, right? The airdrop supplies are dropped. You get crowds of people crushing each other, getting at the stuff.
Yeah,
that's the same thing in the Gaza Humanitarian Fund sites. The four of them, they have this big berm, and they put everything in the middle, and all the people just drive towards it, try to get as much as they can until the time limit's off, and then they chase them away using bullets.
Yeah,
it's insane, really, how ridiculous this whole thing is. Not so when you airdrop the supplies, it comes down, everybody sees it, and they all run for it, and they crush each other trying to get it.
Yeah.
Because everybody's so desperate.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's a humanitarian nightmare, and so it was a Canadian. It's Canadian airdrop, and Canada's taking these exceptional measures with our international partners to access humanitarian aid in Gaza, and severely restricted humanitarian needs have reached the unprecedented level. Despite the scale of the need, humanitarian partners face severe challenge in delivering life-saving food and medical assistance by land due to ongoing restrictions imposed by the Israeli government, which still exists. So I don't know. It's a terrible, terrible thing, and of course the Palestinians are pleading for more. But the best thing to do is open up the border. The thing is 25 miles. The Gaza Strip is 25 miles long and 5 miles across. And the Israel army, the IDF, has been in there forever, for almost 2 years now. And they're saying they can't cut safe corridors to distribution sites.
Yeah.
And when they do let them go, when they do let them cross, they purposely send them to areas they know that they're going to get mobbed and are unsafe. You
Well,
know,
what you need is safe distribution of the food, a safe and obviously we know that there's people dying of starvation here, and but the trouble is, what you need is organization. What you need is people, to start to manage to get food out to more and more people. It's tough.
yeah, it's a terrible, terrible situation,
Yeah,
and the denial and the fact that the U.S. keeps turning their back on this and keeps supplying bombs is outrageous.
yeah, yeah,
Anyway, but anyway, the next article in there is how Sweden is putting pressure on the EU not to trade or do business with. This is one that you put up. That Sweden's PM calls the EU to halt trade relations with Israel.
yeah.
So Sweden's Prime Minister
I found this. It was kind of comments about this particular one. So I went hunting this article. Sweden's looking at actually stopping all trade with Israel right now. Right? They haven't actually made that step, but they are calling upon the EU to discuss this.
He is saying that Israel is not fulfilling most of the basic obligations agreed upon commitments regarding humanitarian aid. Remember, the Geneva Convention is very clear about this, that it is the occupying force that is responsible for feeding the people. Now, they talk about how the West 85 years ago bombed Germany and killed lots of civilians while they were bombing it during war. But once they took over the area, they brought in relief. They brought in supplies to feed the civilians.
Yeah,
that was part of the responsibility. The British, the U.S., and the others.
Well,
that was
fact,
part of the responsibility.
And that's part of what when you see those stories about the war, they often focus upon the troops, but what is behind the troops is necessary aid.
Yeah, and we think of the Marshall Plan and everything, so it's completely different. They say, okay, well, you did this to the Germans 80 years ago, so we could do it to the Palestinians. But the fact of the matter is, they a little ragtag outfit like Hamas is standing up to an enormously well-supplied IDF. IDF has tanks, jets, drones, missiles. It's got huge amounts of many soldiers with body armor, vests, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what are they doing wrong? This is 5 miles wide, 25 miles long. Why haven't they been able to find and completely exterminate Hamas?
Yeah,
they've destroyed just about every building in the whole place. They've destroyed the roads, the infrastructure, the power generation. They've destroyed all of that. They've even limited the amount of food and water that gets in the place. So tell me, how is it that they can't find these people and take them out? It's just kind of ridiculous that because they're getting so frustrated, they're taking it out on the average person.
Yeah. Mike's asking the question, why do they not stop trade with Russia? That's a fair question as well. Yeah,
well, Trump's come up with new sanctions against Russia that won't do much anyway, because Russia won't cooperate. Now, remember, this is a war that Trump was going to stop even before he stepped into office. On the first day, he was going to stop this war. On the very first day. Well, the first thing he tried to do was bully Zelensky into, and when he found that wouldn't work, he can't bully Putin because Putin has too many resources. So he tried to bully the weak link, which was Zelensky. That didn't work for him. So he could not anywhere near come close to ending that war. As a matter of fact, things have never got any better since he's been in there. He said he was going to fix the Middle East thing. He did not. As a matter of fact, he expanded his involvement in the area. So this is another good evidence that Trump can't do what he says he's going to do.
Yeah.
That he's all full of bluster and BS. But the main thing here, though, is, yeah, Russia cut them right out. But they have done what they found early on in the war when Biden was still in. He put certain sanctions and limits on trade with Russia. But what was happening is Americans who traded, or the Western people, including Americans who traded with Russians, would just do it through satellite countries. They would go to Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan and put their goods there and trade, use like Kazakhstan as a transportation point. So whether the goods come from the U.S. or Europe, that's what they would do. They would, instead of sending them directly to Russia to make money off it, that it would take them to Kazakhstan and trade across that border. So it made it look as if it's the Kazakhstan Russian trade. Well, it was actually Western goods going across there. So there's corruption in that. There's limitations to sanctions because always the people with money who are doing trade with Russia will find ways around it.
Yeah,
India's in a tough spot right now because they use a whole lot of Russian oil. And Trump, in one of his means by which to slow down the war with Russia, is demanding that India stop buying their oil so they can put pressure on Russia. But India relies on that oil. You know, what are you going to do?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So local events coming up, 9th and 10th of August, Fort Erie, Siege of Fort Erie re-enactment. So if you're into that kind of stuff, it's happened. That's this weekend, isn't it?
Yes, that's this weekend. And the reason why I put it there is because it's fabulous. If you've ever gone there to look at the reenactment, it's really, really good. I don't know. I read this, but I can't remember if I read if they've had they have a night kind of reenactment. I went there one time and it was during the night and you could walk around and they had little skits going on where a soldier was overlooking the wounded soldier, his companion, and he'd be cursing the Americans. And then you go inside and you'd have a typical housewife of the era trying to marry every guy coming into the place because her husband had been killed during the war. She's got 7 kids looking for a husband, kind of thing, and all kinds of different little anecdotes. And of course, we know about the Brits almost took the fort, but a magazine exploded and killed their assaulting forces when they broke through one side. The powder magazine blew up and killed them. So that was the end of that. That was the end of the siege because they had taken too many losses. So like it says, the actual siege lasted from August 4th to September 21st. This was so the Americans owned the southern part of the river, and the Brits owned both sides of the northern part of the river.
Yeah,
the Brits had taken Fort Niagara, so they had Fort George and Fort Niagara, so had a stranglehold at that part of the river, the north part of the river, and the Americans had a kind of a stranglehold on the south part because they had the fort
at Buffalo and Fort Erie. Yeah.
So it was pretty indicative of that war, that it was a pretty even match. One side would get the advantage, then the next side would get the advantage, and back and forth like this. A waste of time war, a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
But anyway, it is an excellent thing to do, to go see these. Look it up. I can't see whether they have a night one or not.
I don't see anything.
Oh, yeah, here it is. Admission to Old Fort York on Lakes Reward. The Saturday night lantern tour can be purchased on site. That's what you want to do. If you have a chance, go to the night lantern tour. It's very amusing, very entertaining, very enlightening.
Okay.
You'll love it.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Anand and Champagne looking to reset the Mexico relationship in the light of the current trade war, and they were in Mexico with Mexico. They were met with Mexican. Met with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. That's a very German name.
It's
Mexico.
Yiddish. It's Yiddish. It's probably a Yiddish name because she's Jewish.
Yeah. Okay, that I didn't know. Okay, Yiddish name.
Yeah, Yiddish is a Germanic language.
Yeah.
Yiddish is a Germanic language. Full.
No, I know that. Yeah, I knew
so
that. Yeah, I knew that. I just was trying to figure its origin. Yeah.
So Claudia Sheinbaum, so far, is an admired president of Mexico, and this is something I thought would have happened much earlier.
We should have done this months ago. Yeah.
Yes, I thought the same. I thought, why aren't they going to Mexico and sort of sorting out their own differences between Mexico and Canada?
One of the early thoughts that I had is you run trucks up across from Mexico to Canada that says Mexican goods being delivered to Canada on the outside of it, and then when they're going back to to Mexico, they say Canadian goods being delivered to Mexico on the outside of it.
Yeah, well, they're talking about port-to-port transport, which would be like ships. Basically, and of course, to get that trade going across, if we do have a vibrant truck or rail trade between Canada and Mexico, you don't know what Trump will do to it. He'll put a tariff on it, restrict it. I don't like Claudia Sheinbaum's hairdo, so I'm going to put a 50% tariff on all goods coming from Mexico to Canada.
Well, I'm laughing, but I get it, because sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get with Trump. He's like, we've agreed a 15% tariff yesterday, and now we're going to do a 55% tariff tomorrow.
Yeah, so we have actually Mexico has a surplus with us. That's not that's not a surprise. They sell more to us than we sell to them.
Yeah,
and the amount of stuff that we are buying from Mexico has gone up, whereas the stuff that Canada sells to Mexico is pretty much along a flat line.
Yeah,
but there's a graph here that shows the amount of stuff that Mexico sells to us is going up. But that is not a bad thing. We're a richer nation, so we're going to buy more stuff from them, and probably a lot of agricultural stuff during the wintertime when we can't grow it.
Well, we love our tropical, tropical, subtropical fruits, which we get a lot from Mexico. Not just Mexico, Guatemala, Costa Rica, and other Central American nations. Yeah,
and I don't see any problem at all with them having a surplus with us, because we can afford it. Those are things that we need.
Yeah,
and as long as they're not cheating us. And one of the big problems with Mexico and Canada was Chinese electric cars coming in from China to Mexico and then being sold into the States and Canada at very cheap prices, which kind of torpedoed a lot of our own EV production.
Yeah.
So that was what Ford was really, really mad about that early on in the trade war. He says, don't bug us. What about Mexico? Look what they're doing. I didn't think that was a good idea, because I thought you might want Mexico on your side. And that's it seems what they're doing now. Now, the Canadian government is trying to diversify as much as possible away from American trade. Increasing trade with Mexico is probably a good strategy along that line.
Yeah,
we're not going to be able to avoid the U.S. It's a big behemoth there, and but we could settle things with Mexico and make better trade arrangements with Mexico. We can trust those. We can't trust the ones that Trump does, because he can change his mind at any moment.
Yeah. The one thing about Mexico has been that Mexico's always been painted as the bad boy because of the fact that there's the illegal drug trade going on, and there's the illegal, people trying to get across the American border. So it's always been painted as the nasty partner in that relationship. But in fact, the NAFTA, or its equivalent, the USMCA agreement, is one that's really been there. It looks at the reality of the situation, not the fictional situation, and looks at the fact that there's a lot of real valid goods go across each of those borders.
Well, yeah. So, but unfortunately for Mexico, it's always had a trouble with corruption, and it's hard for them to fight that.
Yeah.
And the gangs, the drug gangs, the cartels established in Mexico are almost as powerful as the country itself.
Yeah.
They've had wars with the cartels. And in one of those wars, it cost 30,000 lives. And yet the cartel still exists. Now, Trump has talked about sending troops and stuff down there to help out. But the problem is the appetite for the drugs. No matter if you have the appetite, the drugs will find their way in. You can stop the French connection with heroin, but when that dries up, the next connection will come from the Far East. In this particular case, fentanyl is coming because that's a synthetic opiate, and it's made up of compounds that make other drugs, so it's pretty hard to find the components of it. And then, of course, the cartels are very clever about getting the stuff across the border. You may be able to stop right now. There's nobody coming across the border in the States right now. Almost nobody coming from Mexico, because the administration has effectively cut that off. The U.S. administration has, but you got to ask yourself, well, how come all that drugs are still making their way through? Right? You can stop people from coming over, but how come you can't stop the drugs?
Yeah.
So I don't know. They have incredible intelligence when it comes to fighting Iran. They can drop bombs in Iran, pinpoint bunker bombs, and make those kind of arrangements, but they cannot help the Mexicans can't find where the drugs are and where they're coming from. They kind of have general ideas, but I'm pretty sure if they put their intelligence staff, the same ones they use in war, to sort of zero in on the cartel, they'd be able to feed the Mexicans lots of valuable information. The problem is, how far does corruption go up in the Mexican system? And when you have the cartels going around, anybody who tries to fight the cartels or arrest the cartels, they're beheaded and their families are killed. So you'll find beheaded bodies here and there, or grossly mutilated bodies of a police chief that might have tried to come down on the cartels.
Yeah.
So it's very, very difficult for when you have this powerful group supplied with weapons from the United States. Oh boy, well, this just gets better, doesn't it? So fentanyl is moving in mass amounts into the United States from Mexico, and guns in mass amounts coming back.
Yeah.
So you would think the U.S. government would stop those weapons from going into the States.
You would think.
But you've got the gun lobby saying, "Oh, well, you want to look the other way here because we're making all kinds of money."
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else about Anand and Champagne going to Mexico?
No, I just think it's a really good idea. It's long overdue. I thought this should be they should have got together early on and say, how are we going to?
Well, except for the fact that we didn't have a government at the beginning of the Trump administration. I agree. It was, remember, we didn't have a government at the beginning of this year. once.
Yes, but still, even given that, I thought this is long overdue.
It was long.
I thought, within a month of Carney getting in, this would have happened. But
yeah, it should have done. And relations with, relations with other nations should have been a top priority as well. For example, we already got a trade relation with the EU, and Australia and other places. Those should have been top of agenda for Carney.
Well, they concentrated on the EU first. I would have thought they would have gone to Mexico and kind of, Mexico and Canada would have done something because they both belong in the same trade agreement.
Yeah.
But what they did was concentrate on Europe first, probably thinking it was a better place for more important trade for Canada's goods. Whereas in Mexico, they don't take much of our stuff compared to how much we take from them.
Yeah.
So that's probably part of it.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Okay. So I'm wishing them well in that regard. I think it's a little late, like you saying, but I'm hoping it goes well. All right.
Well, better late than never.
Yeah. So what's this chikungunya virus?
Chikungunya is a virus that is popped up in the world right now, and we could probably expect to see it here. It's just another health problem. It can be deadly for people, very young people, very old people.
Yeah. 90 deaths in 16 countries.
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. Yes, so it's killing people, and it kills the old, it kills the young, and those people with diabetes or heart problems could find themselves in a deadly situation if they get it. Most people get over it within a week or two. It's what happens is you get a rash, a fever, and your joints hurt. The name chikungunya comes from an East African language, and the word means, what the word is based on means cramped up or something like that, or folded up, meaning the joint pain will make you fold up. I have to get the article up so I have to talk on it a little bit better than I am right here.
Yeah, but in China, there was an outbreak of about 7,000 people since June. In Guangdong province, north of Hong Kong.
Now, the mosquitoes that carry it also spread dengue, yellow fever, and Zika virus.
Those are very much killers.
Yeah, so the Mozambique word Kimakonde, in the Kimakonde language, spoken in Tanzania, means to become contorted. In other words, you're getting a lot of joint pain, so you're folding up a bit.
Yeah.
So that's part of it.
And when you're talking about older people, you're talking about people who've naturally got joint pains anyway.
Yeah, you got seniors, and it gets right into the bloodstream. Like I say, healthy people usually get over it. There is no cure for it. So if you get it, you're just going to have to go with it until your body responds to it. Now, it's interesting how the Chinese, one of the reasons how the Chinese are, well, for one thing, the Chinese are trying to go around and eliminate puddles and places where mosquitoes will proliferate. So that's one way they're trying to do it. Another thing is very interesting is they're taking another mosquito and introducing it to the area. And I think it's an elephant mosquito, which larvae eat this particular, the larvae of this other mosquito.
Mm-hmm.
So the one mosquito's larvae that is not a threat to humans will eat those mosquito larvae that is. So that's an interesting way. Well, of course, unfortunately, there's all kinds of chemicals and stuff trying to reduce the amount of of areas where this is happening: Brazil, Bolivia, Argentina. So you see, it's already gone around the world. So it won't be long before we get it, if it can survive up here. We might be lucky that the particular mosquito wouldn't find Canada a good place to live. Hopefully that's the case.
Well, it might find it in the summer. It might be fine in the summer, but in the winter, probably no.
Yeah, so here it is. Drones are being used to find places where mosquitoes are breeding. This is in China. At the same time, scientists are releasing elephant mosquitoes about 2 centimeters long, whose larvae eat the smaller mosquitoes that spread the virus. Health experts hope that these mosquito helpers will play an important role in stopping the outbreak. Well, that's interesting. At least it's natural. You know,
yeah.
The elephant mosquito will survive for a period of time, but in the meantime, they'll eat up the larvae of the bad guy mosquitoes.
Yeah.
You need good guy mosquitoes to beat bad guy mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, you know, but then again, you think about it. We all, you know, inside our body, we have good and bad bacteria, and there's that constant battle going on between the good and bad bacteria.
Well, in this case, it's the battle of the mosquitoes, so you might want to call it the battle of the buzz.
The battle of the buzz. Yeah, but again, that translates into, you know, mosquitoes bring, of course, human bites, don't they? And that's where the problem lies.
Okay, it says, however, some pain relievers may be unsafe during a suspected infection. The CDC recommends avoiding non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, until dengue, in this particular case, is ruled out, as they can raise the risk of bleeding. So that's something you might want to stay away from. And anyway, so hopefully it doesn't make its way. But if you do any traveling, be sure you look for the HOW, the World Health Organizations will have reports on the areas you're going to and what to expect and what to avoid if you can. So if you're going to a place, let's say you're going to Bolivia, they'll say, look, depending on where you're going in Bolivia, you'll find this chikungunya virus. So be careful.
Chikungunya.
Yeah, chikungunya.
Yeah, chikungunya. Yeah, that's probably about the right thing. All right. Well, I think we can we've kind of run to our end of our hour.
Chikungunya.
Chikungunya.
Chikungunya. Oh boy.
Chikungunya. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Chikungunya. So there we have it. So
right.
Our show's over now.
Yeah.
And we are already reported on Gaza, so I won't make much of that. But don't forget Gaza. It's getting worse and worse. You had Witkoff going there, the willing shill of Netanyahu. He won't do anything. He's Israel-phile. He has supported Israel his whole career, so he's going to turn a blind eye to anything that's going bad. And Netanyahu says he wants to take over the Gaza Strip completely.
Yeah.
And the Knesset's in
Israel. We've known that from day one.
Yeah. And the Knesset in Israel have done an unbinding resolution to take over the West Bank too. So what are they going to do with all these people? What they want to do is expel them.
Yeah.
If they take over these territories, they're going to have to give these people citizenship. They don't want to do that. They want the land, but they don't want the people.
Yeah.
So they're going to make it as miserable. If you want to live here, you're going to be miserable. And that's exactly what they're doing in the West Bank, making the lives miserable, including one of the last Christian Palestinian holdouts their old church that was built around the 500s is being attacked. Their stuff is being burned. Their olive trees that are close to it are being attacked as well. This is a Christian community that the settlers want out. They want them out, despite the fact that there's been a Christian community there for 1,500 years, but they want them out.
All right. Well, thanks everybody, and Dave.
Without further ado, I bid you adieu.